From the Detroit Free Press, I'm Robin Chan with today's Voice Briefing. It's Thursday, March 9th, 2023.
I'm Susan Tompor, and I'm a columnist at the Detroit Free Press. If you own a home, you're going to want to prepare for higher taxes thanks to inflation. The taxable value is going up by 5% for 2023, and it could go up by another 5% on your home for 2024 if inflation remains hot. Michigan's property tax system is quite complex. Many rules went into place back in 1994 when voters approved a constitutional amendment known as Proposal A. There are two key things to know. Inflation was so hot that taxable values on homes could have gone up by 7.9%. But thankfully, there is a 5% cap in the law, so that's some good news. The taxable value on your home won't be going up by a full 7.9%. Under the law, Michigan's taxable value increases are limited to the change in the inflation rate or 5%, whichever is lower. But that 5% cap is being hit for the first time in 28 years, so that's not exactly great news. We all know inflation is very high. If you recently bought a home, you're likely going to be shocked by higher monthly mortgage payments, including your property taxes, as the value on your property faces a new assessment. If shopping for a home, ask plenty of questions about what kind of property taxes you might pay. It won't be anything close to what the owner who has been in a house for a long time pays right now. It's important to pay attention to things like the state equalized value. The SEV is often much higher for those who have been in a home for a long time than their taxable value. And yes, tax rates vary based on millage rates in different communities. So that 5% hike might mean an increase of $150 to $300 on some modest homes, but it could be much higher depending on the community you live in and the value of your home.
This is Todd Spangler, Washington correspondent for the Detroit Free Press. A 27-year-old deaf Michigan man is waiting to see if the U.S. Supreme Court will allow him to sue his former school district. Miguel Luna Perez says from the time he was 9 until he left Sturgis Public Schools 12 years later that he never received an adequate education. Miguel and his lawyers say despite recommendations he be taught American Sign Language, he never was. And they say he suffered permanent harm in reading and comprehension that can never be made up. Experts tell the Free Press those claims could be true, that going that length of time without appropriate instruction may have set any deaf student back permanently. Representatives for Sturgis haven't addressed those claims, but for now, it's unclear whether Miguel will ever be allowed to sue. The case before the Supreme Court revolves not around whether Miguel suffered harm, but whether he followed the proper procedure in suing. Sturgis says he did not, and should not be allowed to bring his claims into court now. And some educator groups agree. They say if Miguel wins, it could lead to more lawsuits. Miguel's lawyers say he should be allowed to sue, even if he eventually settled with Sturgis to pay for him to attend the Michigan School for the Deaf as an adult. The Supreme Court is expected to decide the case by summer.
I'm Kirkland Crawford with the Free Press Sports Department, getting ready for Michigan in the Big Ten tournament. Though the conference playoffs started last night, the Wolverines take the floor at noon Eastern Time in Chicago to take on Rutgers in a must-win game, well, for both teams if they're trying to reach the NCAA tournament. Now, these two teams met just a couple of weeks ago in the midst of Michigan getting its stuff together, and Rutgers was in the midst of its late-season slide. On February 23rd, the Wolverines won in New Jersey 58-45, and the Maize and Blue did it without its star freshman Jet Howard. But the coach's son is back in the lineup, and the winner of this game awaits a meeting with number 1 seed Purdue. And if you remember, it was these two teams in this time slot on this day 3 years ago when the world paused due to the pandemic. As far as we can tell, that won't happen today.
For more stories from the Detroit Free Press, visit freep.com. That's FREEP.com. Thanks for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.